Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel. My name is Carrie Johnson. Stay tuned for a presentation with me on my paralegal work product. It is a psychological functioning based on a continuing legal education course that I took back in 2019 on lawline.com. And if you want to take a look at that CLE, the title that you can look them up is Forensic Psychological Evaluations, Considerations for Criminal and Civil Attorneys with Daniel Agatino and Gianni Pirelli. Thank you for watching. All right, I'm back. So here's my psychological functioning work product with paralegal student, founder, sole managing owner of Innovative Legal, Carrie E. Johnson, a single member LLC California business. So this, I want to show you my trial notebook. It's in this blue binder here. And it's being written and constructed at the skill level of an associate's degree in paralegal studies is how I'm going to put that. I did attend 2 universities, but I didn't study paralegal studies at the 2 universities. So at the University of Phoenix, I studied my bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration. And then at Southern New Hampshire University, I was studying for forensic accounting with a concentration on fraud examination and anti-money laundering. That was the route that I was going to take once I got my bachelor's from there. So I have a cover letter here that really goes over my level of skill in education. So let me read that to you. It says, Miss Carrie Elizabeth Johnson initially began her paralegal studies college coursework at Riverside Community College in Riverside, California back in 2008. She has attended 3 local community colleges for her paralegal associate's degree, in which 2 of the colleges were ABA approved paralegal programs. Currently, her academic standing towards finishing up her paralegal associate's degree with Manchester Community College in Manchester, Connecticut, is 7 college courses away from graduating the program. 3 of the 7 college courses are retakes in which she has already passed at either Coastline Community College or Riverside Community College, and only 4 courses should remain for her to take to graduate. As it stands, her current academic standing with MCC is warning in progress probation. Registration hold has been placed on her record, in which prevents her from registering for classes now. So that's where I am right now as far as education goes. This presentation is based on a real life event of a criminal conviction that I had back in March 24th, 2014. The actual location of my arrest was in Stanton, California, inside of Orange County, California. So on the next slide, at a glance, here's what the trial notebook that I showed you earlier, just a minute ago. This is based on a law line continuing legal education course that I took back in 2019. The presenters were attorney Daniel Agatino and forensic psychologist Gianni Pirelli. And basically with this psychological functioning, it's an assessment. It's a different type of assessment, forensic mental health assessment. And he has this chart this diagram for areas of relevance, and there's 14 sections here in which I took this binder, and of those 14 sections, I created 14 chapters that highlight the before and after regarding this criminal conviction. So let me go over to the next page. So going from right to left in chronological order, I have my paralegal education listed here. So from 2008 to 2011, I was at RCC. I mentioned here that back in 2020, MCC stated that they can only take a certain amount of credits from previous paralegal coursework. So I had to retake a number of classes in which I've already passed, not once, but twice at Coastline as well. Computer applications, I passed with an A at RCC, and then over at Coastline Community College, I passed that course with an A as well. Civil litigation at RCC, I passed with a C. Probate, estate planning, also a C. And then civil litigation, I passed at both Coastline and RCC with either a B or a C. So what should be remaining, if things go my way, there should be only 4 courses that I should have to take, and I'm going to fight tooth and nail with Department of Education on that matter, that legal writing, financial accounting, legal studies capstone course, and 1 remaining math class should be the only classes that I should have to take remaining to graduate so that I can move on with my life and get out of school. I'm 37 years old. I'm not there looking for a boyfriend or a husband. I'm definitely not there looking for any friends. I want to get out of college, and at this point, I don't think that I'm going to return to a university, and I don't see it possible or even worth pursuing a higher level of education with a bachelor's and a master's degree when there are people who are still not wanting to address issues of racism in the employment sector, especially the legal profession. As I think I say in another video, that of the classes that I did take, and when I was attending the paralegal classes at many of these colleges, I didn't see a number of men studying to be paralegals. And I think that you should do that instead of trying to attach yourself to someone's daughter that is studying paralegal, because I don't want to hear anything about men and their baby mama dramas or issues that they have with their baby mamas and their new baby mamas. I don't want to hear any of that stuff. My company was not about family law. It was not a family practice. I was the sole owner of that company. And my parents had nothing to do with that. And neither did my mother's other 2 children. So that is my education here. So the area of relevance, which is based on the table of contents, I have the referral incident is chapter 1, medical is chapter 2. So as a result of that arrest on March 24th, 2014, the OC, Department of Children and Family Services, filed a petition on the 26th of March 2014 under WIC 300 B and G. B stands for failure to protect, and G stands for no parent or legal guardian. And that B, failure to protect, is what is checked off on the DCFS alleged investigator, but she was a social worker. I highly doubt that she was qualified to call herself an investigator. Um, yeah, these social workers are getting out of hand. They're not investigators at all. Um, but that is chapter 1. And what I do is in my narrative, I address the before and after, which should have been addressed in court. Prior to this criminal conviction, I did not have a criminal record, and no history of substance abuse of any kind. So I address the examples in which I have had run-ins with the law prior to this arrest, which were non-violent minor offenses, all of them, as well as a job interview that was never mentioned because no one asked about my previous work history. And I completely forgot about this, but I interviewed with the city of Torrance. I think it was probably about 2008 timeframe, between 2007 and 2010. I interviewed for the city of Torrance for a police officer position, in which I did not get, and I do remember that interview. I won't discuss that here, but so that was one run-in with law enforcement that wasn't a negative, but it also wasn't positive either, because clearly I didn't get the job at that time, and I do not want to pursue a career with law enforcement. So just so that if you are watching this video, that is not my intention. That's not my goal, to be in law enforcement. You serve your purpose, and I think that you already have enough acting police officers who just collect a salary and don't do any work and don't like to write up police reports. So, and I know that from my own experience with filing police reports, which I hope that soon law enforcement everybody will have to start allowing all types of police reports to be filed online, as well as give attachments of evidence that they have, so that there's no interaction with law enforcement, since you guys don't like to write anything down. And then the other other times that I had a run-in with the law that shows up on my credit report. Back in Riverside, I was a paralegal student, right? I barely passed a red light. They show me April 24th, 2009 on my credit report, under a minor offense traffic violation, running the red light. Usually I take the same route from RCC going back home in Redlands, California, and they had these cameras set up on the intersections, and they all, they were getting a lot of people with those cameras, just barely, passing the red light, take a picture of your license plate and send you a ticket in the mail. So I'm sure that I did not neglect that and pay the ticket. So that was for Riverside County. So then going into Orange County, my interactions with law enforcement prior to this conviction was my daughter and I, we used to live in Huntington Beach, California, in what they call Slater slums. And people would see us driving up and down Beach Boulevard, going into the beach on the weekends for sure. But this day, they just happened to catch me and issue a ticket for a cracked windshield. And that was one occasion. And then in Costa Mesa, on Harbor Boulevard, they have an intersection where the motor inn used to be, and they see a lot of people crossing the street, that intersection, but not going up to cross the legal way through the crosswalk. So I happened to get a jaywalking ticket that day. And I was still studying to be a paralegal. So I'm kind of under the impression, since I didn't have a criminal record prior to that, that someone thought that maybe we should just give her some tickets or something, or start messing with her to see, like, if she needs to experience something. Something is coming up that someone thinks that I need to experience something firsthand in order to know how to deal with it. So that was before the conviction. After this arrest, and I did all of the court-ordered family reunification services. That was completed on December 17th, 2014. After that, what were my run-ins with law enforcement? Did she get any other arrests or anything like that? After I got issued a loitering ticket on federal property for sleeping, and then a loitering ticket for the city of Long Beach. They caught me sleeping on the beach. It issued me a $561 ticket, in which I paid once I moved to Boston and started working immediately, back in September 2016, because I didn't want that to turn into a bench warrant. So again, all non-violent offenses that does not involve any other parties whatsoever. And then in New York, I got a traffic violation for failure to pay bus fare. And eventually I paid that ticket. It was like $173.15. I paid online, and, that has been cleared. So that is addressed in Chapter 1. Chapter 2 is medical. If I was a defense attorney, I would not think that it is necessary to construct one of these trial notebooks for a first-time offense DUI. If there are multiple offenses or multiple offenses of the same criminal act, then I would think that this would be deemed appropriate for you as a defense attorney to construct a trial notebook and contract the services of a forensic psychologist to sit down with your client for a number of hours to kind of go through filling in each of these tabs to help illustrate what might be going on through their mind, that they might be experiencing trouble, that they can continue to repeatedly engage in criminal activity, or the same criminal act repeatedly over and over again. That's when I would deem this to be an appropriate time to build a trial notebook. But this is not a class assignment. This is not something that is done for an attorney. This is solely my work product for myself, as well as something for my daughter to read, so that she can take a look at what was going on with me at that time that she was taken. She was 8 years old. So there are certain things that I feel is appropriate for me to speak to my daughter about. However, something like this, she would not be able to understand at the age of 8. Especially, there's a lot that I have uncovered, and things that I know now I did not know a year ago, or 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So she wouldn't be able to understand. Her only job when she was with me was just to be a kid and get good grades at school. That was pretty much it. So in medical, I address that there was no prior history of substance abuse, and I address the use of alcohol here and up under this tab, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So medical, I go through all your medical history as it relates, or how it would be relevant to this charge. I don't go far back into detail about a lot of my medical history, just only if it's relating to this. Somehow it can tie into um, this criminal conviction. So, chapters 3 and 4 is education. I list a total of 5 colleges here. 3 of them were local community colleges, 2 were university. I also list military transcripts that I have that show military coursework as well as military military experience there on those military transcripts. And I have very short history, military history. And then, so you've got your traditional education, you've got your your military government training, any technical training that you have done, like my real estate classes, notary public, all of that stuff is listed here, as well as CLE, CPE, and CE ongoing self-study. So all of that is under the chapter 3. Chapter 4, I define what attitude means. I feel the need to define it because sometimes people who might read this might have their own definition in their mind of what attitude means. Please keep in mind that this was not created with any formal instructions from the forensic psychologist, Dr. Gianni Pirelli. It was more so, again, at the skill level of a paralegal associate's degree, and the way in which I interpreted his presentation, I'm kind of making my own educated assessment of how to construct this trial notebook. Chapter 5 is leisure activities. So outside of drinking alcohol, what can you do? And your personal free time is listed up under Chapter 5. Employment, something that should have been mentioned. Prior to this criminal conviction, I was this arrest. I was working a month before that. I got hired at Small Tech University in Fullerton, California, and then that should have been noted, and I still have the documentation of that offer letter of employment. That should have been noted there. Why I got fired was due to babysitting issues. And then after the arrest, and I was continuing to go to court and started engaging in family reunification services, I got hired by All Green Recycling. So that also should have been noted, and that the public defender said, well, Carrie, I don't know what you're going to do about that job, but you have to do these services or else they're going to take your kid. That's what came out of his mouth. So I had to quit my job. All Green Recycling was not aware of that stuff. And they, trust me when I tell you that I worked for them, they didn't care. They wouldn't care anyway. So I addressed that here in the narrative that I have documentation to prove it, of having a job literally a month before I got arrested, and as well as during the ongoing trial of this case. So it starts off with two different courts. As a result of the arrest, happens in the criminal court, then the juvenile dependency court was a result of an initial referral. Chapter 7 is goals and plans. There were a few things that were not mentioned in a lot of the dialogue between the attorneys and um, the judge. Um, they failed to mention that I was a paralegal student. They failed to mention that I was a small business owner there in Orange County. They had they were trying to portray me a certain way in court documents as well as what was being recorded. Chapter 8 is relationships. So immediately I kind of drew this diagram. Like you have your daily routine. So from the time that you wake up in the morning, whoever is in your household you consider to be your immediate family. And, that's who you say good morning to. So obviously my daughter is in my household. She's the person that I say good morning to. And that's what my household structure consists of. And that is a personal relationship. So with that daily routine, we have many different types of relationships that we encounter on a daily basis or throughout the weeks and months. So you have your personal relationships, you have your working relationships, and then you have your academic relationships. I try to keep everything separate. And I'm very firm on certain lines that you just do not cross. And the academic relationships that I have are just that. I don't speak to those teachers or anyone at the school. At this point, this is the 5th college. So at this point, I just want to get my degree and leave and hopefully never see those people again because the experience that I had with them was not good. So I just want my diploma, my cap and gown, and I'll go ahead and treat myself to my own graduation dinner. um, Working relationships, that's another fine line that you don't cross. I don't know you past work. So um, I think people don't understand that. It's like I clock in to do the one job in which I'm hired to do. I clock out and that's it. And I shouldn't see you on my personal free time. So um, there's a there's a reason that we have days off from work, and that is really to have a break from the people that we work with 5 days out the week at the most. And on your personal days off, most of us unfortunately are still not taking time to rest. We are still having to work or do something else on our days off. So I just don't understand why certain people don't understand that. Um, and then your personal relationships obviously would be, the relationships that you have with your your children, your spouse, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, those are that. Or, who you consider to be your friends that you do not associate with, and you met through other means that were not work related or at college. So that is chapter 8. I clearly define what behavior means um, here in chapter 9. So my behavior before and after that criminal conviction as it relates and is relevant to the charges. I clearly define what substance use is, and I define what substance abuse is. Because I don't think that some of you can differentiate between the two. So they are going to be clearly defined in chapter 10, the definition of what, like for example, I use cigarettes. I consider it to be a social smoker. And there's occasionally sometimes when I'm stressed out, I might go buy a pack of cigarettes and smoke. But has it negatively impacted my work performance or my academics? I would say no. There are a few things that were not mentioned regarding academics, like if someone, you know, doesn't show up for class or she's falling asleep in class or anything like that. That is not a red flag for you as college staff to assume that someone is under the influence of substance abuse or drugs. They could very well be financially impaired, like homeless, and deprived of sleep. And there's a number of things that could go on because most of the students that are at local community colleges probably do come from single parent households. So they're independent students, and some of them might have issues with housing. And so there was a student lounge at the school for, students to go and take naps and stuff. And so I tried to stay on college campus the whole entire time because I knew that some of the teachers would probably assume that her academics is negatively impacted due to, we are assuming that she might be drinking or whatever. But no, wasn't the case, and I was on camera the whole entire time at the school. I would be there probably about 6:30 in the morning, and I would be the last one to leave out. And Lieutenant Davis is the black police officer who would normally see me being the last ones leaving off campus at MCC. So I know exactly what some of those white teachers were thinking. So I had already like, let me go ahead and stay on camera so that they can see. Mental health is chapter 11. So uh, there are no instructions for how this is supposed to be constructed. So I define what mental health is. I don't go in depth because again, this is a first time offense. I didn't really feel it was necessary to talk about a lot of stuff if it doesn't relate to the charges. Now, if you want to get me on something else, then okay then. But when you just specifically look at this isolated incident, that this you can consider to be a criminal charge. Minor traffic violations and minor offenses that were all nonviolent and they did not involve other parties. So I was clearly not a threat to anyone's life, nor did I put my own life in danger. Um, it's not necessary to go into certain stuff. Again, if it was repeated criminal of the same criminal acts, then I would deem it appropriate to go further in depth into someone's history, if they even have history of um, mental health issues. So trauma, I define what trauma is in chapter 12, and then go what I write about in this narrative, what I felt was traumatic about the experience, being arrested for the first time and having my daughter stripped away from me, and she was crying. It was pretty traumatic for me because we have such a close bond together. Chapter 13 is family. So I clearly define what is a family member, who I consider to be family, and who I consider to be a relative. And there's a lot of relatives that I don't know a lot about their character. I don't know a lot about their history. I don't care to know a lot about their character or history or how they conduct themselves. We didn't have a relationship, and I've never expressed interest even when I was living up under my mother's roof. No interest in knowing how you are doing. I don't associate with like people that I wasn't, I no longer had to forced to interact with. When you're a kid, you have to go over certain people's houses, or you're forced to go to family reunions of other people's family, not yours, type of thing. So I define who I consider to be family in this chapter, 13. And then 14 is the financial. How did this criminal conviction impact your personal finances? And it all ties together at the end. This, and there's me again. This this presentation, I wrote a letter to Dr. Pirelli on September 24th, 2019, and I have it here with me. I put it in the mail. He did not respond to me, but I'm going to read it to you so that hopefully he'll take a look at this video and might see it on YouTube. Hello, Mr. Pirelli. My name is Carrie E. Johnson. I really enjoyed your webinar with attorney Daniel Agatino. I am writing to see if you would review my psychological functioning done by myself and based on my real life illegal juvenile dependency court case from March 2014. The case originated out of Orange County, California, and transferred based on attorney Ben Azar advice to transfer the case to Los Angeles Edelman Children's Court. Paragraph 2. Although I do not have my PhD or higher level of education, my academic transcripts from high school and college are in this envelope. I have no taxable income at the moment and will not use any government assistance, so I do not have the ability to pay you for any visits. I simply would like your opinion on my personal perception before submitting it for review. So there will be a copy submitted with my judicial complaint against the original presiding judge overseeing that case in California, because this should have been done by the public defenders, but it was not. So I also go on to say all academic transcripts are attached except Southern New Hampshire University, where I took forensic accounting and fraud examination online, but was forced to withdraw due to homelessness, stress of illegal lawyers, judges, police harassment, as well as government and homeless shelter residents harassment. I hope this letter makes it to you, and we'll be working on collecting on the relevant evidence from my presentation for your review. Thank you in advance, and I hope to hear from you in writing. Enclosure, Carrie E. Johnson. So, I never heard from Dr. Pirelli. Then I enrolled in some classes over at MCC, and I never experienced such levels of craziness and chaos before. That most certainly did not happen at MCC and RCC and University of Phoenix as well. And I was taking online downtown campus courses for University of Phoenix in St. Louis, Missouri. And I've never experienced something so crazy before in my life until I got to MCC. Energetically, it was the energy of just like hate type of thing. And so I have not heard from him since. I have not heard from him or anyone from the office, and I have attempted to contact him by phone and left him a message, but, he hasn't heard those magical words of, do you have the ability to pay type of thing. So here's my disclaimer. I'm going to take the camera off so I can read this to you slowly. I must disclose that I am not an attorney nor licensed to practice law in any state. I am not a licensed mental health professional and not a licensed doctor. This trial notebook for my previous criminal conviction of a first-time offense DUI on March 24, 2014 is written and solely constructed by myself as the sole author in hopes of Dr. Gianni Pirelli reviewing my paralegal student work product. This is not an attorney's work product, and I do not give anyone permission to reproduce my life's work that is intended for my daughter to know who her mother is and not what she is told to believe about me. By racists, by prejudiced black men, by prejudiced white women, or prejudiced black women who have either written form or verbally communicated to white people that I act white, or have written certain things about me in their social media chat boxes, which is electronic discovery or FaceTime surveillance that they may be either knowing or unknowingly watched, or invasion of privacy without my consent and knowledge. So I don't know. So that is my presentation. I ran a little bit longer than I thought. I tried to keep it as short as possible, but 40 minutes is kind of long. But thank you for the presentation. I hope you enjoyed the video, or for you pro se litigants, take the initiative and heading over to lawline.com to take the course so that you can learn how to represent yourself. Take care.